Nikki Haley slams Biden for calling Republicans fiscally demented. Try again, Mr. President. Rafael Nadal, stunned by American in straight sets at Australian Open, out in second round. Jay Briscoe, Ring of Honor wrestling champion, dies in car crash. Cody Rhodes will make in-ring return at Royal Rumble after missing months with injury. Nikki Haley slams Biden for calling Republicans fiscally demented. Try again, Mr. President.
This is breaking news.
I'm Erin Burnett in Washington.
Nikki Haley slams Biden for calling Republicans fiscally demented. Try again, Mr. President. Biden proposed $6 trillion in new spending in 2021. Former United Nations ambassador Nikki Haley slammed President Biden's comments that Republicans are fiscally demented, calling out the president for signing off on a $6 trillion spending package amid a looming debt ceiling deadline and crushing inflation. Biden signed off on more than $6 trillion in new spending, and pushed for trillions more, and he's calling Republicans fiscally demented. Try again, Mr. President, the former South Carolina governor wrote on Twitter. The national debt when Biden took office was $27.7 trillion. As of the time of this publication, it was $31.4 trillion, an increase of $3.7 trillion in 2 years. While speaking at a Martin Luther King Jr. Day event Monday, the president blasted Republicans, calling them fiscally demented while touting what he called Democrats' accomplishments and claiming that they are the fiscally responsible party. They're going to talk about big spending Democrats again. Guess what? I reduced the deficit last year, $350 billion. This year, federal deficit is down $1 trillion plus. That's a fact. Biden said, prompting roaring applaud from the crowd. And there's going to be hundreds of billions reduced over the next decade. But so what? These guys are the fiscally demented, I think. They don't quite get it. In May 2022, the president proposed a $6 trillion spending package in a proposal aimed at funding his sweeping economic agenda, which included investments in education, infrastructure, and transportation. Democrats have passed about $3.8 trillion in spending on their top agenda items. The single most expensive of Democrats' significant pieces of legislation was also their first, the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, ARP. That was followed in 2021 by the bipartisan infrastructure bill, was supported by all Democrats and a smaller number of Republicans, and which cost $1.2 trillion in new and baseline spending. In the summer of 2022, Democrats, alongside of President Biden, passed a $280 billion bill to compete with China and a gun control bill with $20 billion in spending. Finally, they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, the reconciliation revamp of Build Back Better, with estimates ranging between $430 billion and $480 billion in combined spending and tax credits. Biden signed his Inflation Reduction Act into law in August 2022. Under former President Donald Trump, the national debt went up about $8 trillion over his 4-year term, with a portion of the debt increasing due to the COVID-19 relief plan. After Trump took office, he quickly implemented a massive tax cut, including a reduction in the corporate tax rate to 21% from 35%, a move that critics say increased the annual deficit further. Last Friday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned that the U.S. is on track to reach the debt limit, the cap on how much money the federal government can borrow, by Thursday. The ceiling was last raised by $2.5 trillion in December 2021 to $31.4 trillion. The Treasury Department has warned Democrats and Republicans alike to reach a compromise. Still, House Republicans said they would not support the Democrats' call to increase the debt ceiling this time around unless there are significant spending cuts and concessions made. Yellen warned the congressional leaders to recall 2011, when the U.S. reached its debt limit, wreaking havoc on the stock market. In June 2022, under the Biden administration, inflation hit a 40-year high of 9.1%, and gas prices soared nationwide under his watch. In November, the Biden administration claimed it was responsible for the historic reduction in the federal deficit, leaving out other major, contributing factors that led to the decrease. The Biden-Harris administration lowered the deficit with the single largest one-year reduction in American history, the White House tweeted. Twitter users quickly pointed out that despite the reduction, the FY22 deficit is still the fourth largest in history and is 41% larger than FY19 and highlighted that high COVID-driven deficits played a significant role in the drop. Rafael Nadal, stunned by American in straight sets at Australian Open, out in second round. Nadal was the reigning Australian Open champion. Tennis superstar Rafael Nadal was booted from the Australian Open in the second round, ending his chances for a record-extending 23rd Grand Slam trophy. He suffered the defeat in straight sets to Mackenzie McDonald 6-4, 6-4, 7-5. Nadal noted, "It's a tough moment. It's a tough day. I can't say that I am not destroyed mentally at this moment, because I would be lying." He pulled up awkwardly at the end of a point late in the second set against the 65th-ranked McDonald. Nadal was visited by a trainer on the sideline, then left the court for a medical timeout. Up in the stands, his wife wiped away tears. Nadal returned to play, but was physically compromised and not his usual self, saying afterward that he could not hit his backhand properly and could not run much either. But Nadal added that, as the reigning champion of the tournament, he did not want to leave the court via a mid-match retirement. Though not sure exactly what the injury might be, the Spaniard said his hip had been an issue for the past couple of days. McDonald, an American who won NCAA titles in both singles and doubles while attending UCLA, said of Nadal, "He's an incredible champion. He's never going to give up, regardless of the situation, so even closing it out against a top guy like that is always tough. I kept focusing on myself in the end and got through." McDonald added, "I'm really happy with how I started that match. I thought I was playing really well, serving great, returning well, too. So I was really taking it to him." This is Nadal's earliest exit at any Grand Slam tournament since bowing out in the first round in Melbourne in 2016 against number 45 Fernando Verdasco. That also made Verdasco the lowest-ranked player to defeat Nadal in Australia until, of course, McDonald on Wednesday. McDonald has never advanced past the fourth round of any major tournament. Nadal won the Australian Open last year for the second time during his illustrious career, which made for his 21st major championship, then raised his total to 22, the most for a man, at Roland Garros. He is currently ranked number 2 but was the top seed at Melbourne Park because number 1 Carlos Alcaraz is sitting out the Australian Open with a bad leg.